So Dan Slott's back in the news again. This used to be like a regular video, to be honest. About 2 years ago, everyone was talking about Dan Slott all the time because he does this all the time. But people forget about him. The comic book industry itself, people have forgotten about, as the sales reflect. This is part of the reason why. So Dan Slott, is this stuff that he's doing right now that everyone's talking about, this is nothing new. Dan Slott's been doing this for years. Anybody that knows Douglas Ernst, for example, he has a blog. He's chronicled Dan Slott forever. Dan Slott has been going after fans and denouncing fans that he doesn't like or consider worthy of his books for a long time. Richard Meyer over at Comics Matter has him as pretty much the beginning of the downfall of the comic pros, because a little bit of lore, way back in the day, when, there was only forums, there were no YouTubers or anything like that, Dan Slott would go and harass people on forums and try to get them banned. It was like, and then he would, say F you to people. This is like the first time a comic pro had openly done this, really. So he's really like the proto comic pro for treating fans like trash. He was like the first one to really do it. And then, he didn't get fired or lose any books, and everyone followed suit. Like, hey, we can treat customers like trash and still make a lot of money. And I think from that point, that's where all these comic pros spun out to just pretty much demean fans and say, hey, you're not worthy of being my fan. Dan Slott's a special one, though. He's been going after the president for 2 or 3 years now, having a one-sided conversation. Dude tweets at him every single day, or talks about him every single day. And I find it amusing because the guy has no idea who you are, Dan Slott. Dan Slott's poor workmanship reflects into his comics as well. Dan Slott, interesting tidbit, used to be the writer for Amazing Spider-Man. And when he was writing Amazing Spider-Man, sales were consistent because Amazing Spider-Man always sells. So you can see it up in here. It's right here at number 9 or number 8 on the list. So Amazing Spider-Man 8 and 9 respectively, 57,000. And it stays up there every month. Every month it stays up there. You know why? Because it's Amazing Spider-Man. It's one of the most popular comics there is. People will buy it just to have it, to collect it, and not even read it. Now, once Slott lost Spider-Man, he was on the book for like 10 years. It was a very boring 10 years, too, by the way. The sales, didn't change, but his sales did. So he has 2 books on here. Iron Man he's been writing, which has been a horrible run. This is a bad example because this is an event. This Iron Man 2020, it's number 1. This was part of an event. So I don't count this as much. The regular Iron Man book is pretty far down there. A better representation is his Fantastic Four run, issue 18. It's at 32,000 units. Without Spider-Man, Dan Slott is really exposed for kind of the hack he is. He can't keep sales up. His sales keep dropping. Now, if this is a Spider-Man, it would stay consistent up here in the top 10, as Spider-Man always does. I don't think it matters who you have on Spider-Man. It will always sell. You can put the worst writer and the worst artist on there. It will still consistently sell because, like I said, people will buy that book just to buy it. So what's going on with Dan Slott? Well, let's go over the tweet real quick, why everyone is talking about him. As you can see, he goes on about all this stuff. Bound into Comics collected a few of his more recent tweets. But this was the big one. This administration is not on top of this emergency. They are ignoring or contradicting their own experts. People are dying. And he's golfing at his resort again and profiting off of it. I'm not saying F you for voting for him. I am saying F you if you vote for him again. Basically telling a bunch of fans to, F off. Now, will he face any kind of trouble for this? No. CB Cebulski will not even reprimand him. He won't say anything to him. You're allowed to do and say whatever you want if you work in the comic book industry. You can treat fans like trash. You can tell fans not to buy your stuff. You can tell fans pretty much to go F themselves sideways. CB Cebulski, editor-in-chief at Marvel, don't give a damn. Don't care. He could care less. In fact, he's going to try to act like this doesn't even happen. He'll never comment on it. He'll say nothing because he's a coward and he's not a good leader, which is the problem with the entire comic book industry, to be honest. Every single publisher, nobody has a real leader. They let these people, these clowns, run around, tell fans that they're trash. Doesn't matter. It's funny. They don't recognize that their own dying industry, like, you can't act like this. And this is the only industry, by the way, where you can act like this. Why don't you go work in a service job and tell your customers to screw off, and you tell me how long you'll keep your job. You would be fired that day. That day. And these people say, well, these people, they're freelancers. They can say what they want. Yep, they can. But I don't have to hire them again for being a bunch of jackasses. Plenty of talented artists and writers out there to replace people like this. But they don't want to do that because the comic industry is increasingly far super leftist. It gets this way every month, every year. They seek you out if you have a difference of opinion, and they get rid of you. That's the whole reason that the movement Comicsgate started, is because of people like Dan Slott. You got someone like John Malin, who got ran out openly, exposed people like Alana Smith, who's an editor at Marvel, said if you vote a certain way, we're going to find out who you are and we will remember. You won't work in this industry again. This isn't a new thing. This has been going on for years, and it's part of the reason why the comic book industry is in such bad shape. And it's not just their talent, they actively put it in the books. You see stuff like this all the time. Marvel Comics uses Mary Jane Watson to call classic TV show The Honeymooners misogynistic. And this is a light example. There's better examples than this, but I picked this one because Bounded in the Comics did this story on March 6th. This isn't old. This is yesterday. People are talking about She-Hulk like this is new. Go look at She-Hulk. She looks like a man now. Okay, she looks like the Hulk. She acts like the Hulk. She's just a copy of the Hulk. She used to be her own unique character. They changed her up. You're not allowed to look like a woman. Not anymore. Not in today's Marvel, baby. And it doesn't extend to just this. They'll cancel people in the independent circuit. So, it doesn't matter how you feel about Doug TenNapel here, but Doug, nobody should get canceled. Nobody should get canceled. I'm against cancel culture. Sean Gordon Murphy did a cover for the guy. He had to pull it because Tess Fowler, who works in the comic book industry, didn't like that and decided to go after him and say, hey, Sean Gordon Murphy, Mr. Sean Gordon Murphy, you're a Nazi. You have to get off that cover. And guess what? Sean Gordon Murphy bent the knee and did it, damaging his brand. And then, that's not good enough. They'll go after another person, Blake Northcott. Works with Sean Gordon. Is going to be working with Sean Gordon Murphy. They don't like Blake Northcott because she associates with people in Comicsgate. So because of that, we got to cancel her too. And then they go after Gordon Murphy again. This is a Batman writer and artist, in case you don't know, because I don't think I did spill that out. So they go after her again. And they say, well, you got to go. Bend the knee again, Sean. You need to get rid of her too. And this is why when you look at comic book sales, you see stuff like this. The highest number is 167 units. And that's it. It quickly drops down to 57. And then you go down here and The Flash is only selling 23,000 books. Action Comics, Superman, only selling 27,000 books. Avengers, 38,000. Justice League, 44,000. Star Wars, 44,000. You know, and it gets worse and worse. Thor, 51,000. You know, these books should be selling hundreds of thousands, but they're not, because comics aren't for everybody. Not anymore. They're the only people that comics are for now is some fringe, weird, far left audience that they don't even have. They've been trying to get these people as an audience for years, and they don't come. But they're so willing to throw their actual fan base in the trash to get them. It's almost disgusting. People sit here and doubt that the comic book industry is going to fail. I don't doubt it. I'd say within the next 5 years, I don't think there'll be any more floppy comic books. I think the industry will collapse in on itself, and that's mostly because of people like Dan Slott and these people wanting to cancel people like Sean Gordon Murphy because he wants to work with somebody that the industry doesn't agree with. But that doesn't mean comics are over. You still have people like this, Raging Golden Eagles, Blade Devil. Look how much money this thing is making. It's only been out for a couple of days. It's at 83,000. There's still an appetite for comics. This is why you have movements like Comicsgate doing so well and bringing in all of this money to campaigns because, you know, people still want comic books. They still want them. And they're just not going to go to Marvel and DC to get them. You know, they'll go elsewhere. They'll go elsewhere for their addictions. And this is something that they need to recognize, but they won't. C.B. Cebulski won't talk to Dan Slott about the stuff he said. He'll say nothing. And Dan Slott can continue to take a dump on fans and the fandom as much as he wants, really. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. Dan Slott has responded. This is another problem itself. Was getting a large influx of online trolls responding to an @Bounding in Comics hit piece, and I had to run a blockchain on that account. If you feel you were unfairly swept up in the block, have a friend tweet me your Twitter handle and I'll unblock you. Sorry for the inconvenience. So, doesn't even want to talk to anybody. Runs a blockchain on people. Potential customers, gone. That's it. So, anyway, that's it, everybody. Thanks for watching. Let me know your thoughts. What do you think about the comic book industry? Are you still buying comics? Do you care about comics? Give me your thoughts. Also, share the video if you would. Throw a like up if you would. Make sure you're still subscribed. Subscribe if you're new. Hit that notification bell. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace. Also, if you want to help support the channel, check out my Teespring store. There's a link in the description. You can find some merchandise in there that you might want to check out. Also, take a moment. Make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. There's something going on right now, and they've been unsubscribing people. So just take a second and double check on that and subscribe if you're new.